Hi everyone, welcome to my autumn TBR. So this morning it was all cloudy. It's only September, but this morning it was all cloudy and it looked like autumn. It looked like, it looked like things were getting a bit chillier, and I was trying to stay ahead of the game and say, I'm going to stay ahead of the seasonal depression this year. I'm going to start, celebrating autumn. I'm going to do lots of nice autumnal things, and I'm going to get in there early. But now it's kind of sunny and looks like a nice summer's day, so these things never go to plan. I'm still going to go through all the books that I want to read this autumn/fall season. The categories I have are cozy/witchy, horror, fantasy, and then other/ kind of just romance. So let's start with the cozy/witchy books, which autumn is just a cozy season. It's cozy, it's rainy, you drink coffee, and I feel like just cozy witchiness just goes with that. So the first cozy book we have is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherworld. I've just finished Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and I loved it. It was so good. Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherworld essentially it just continues on from that story, and I can't wait to read it. I'm waiting for the paperback to come out on September 7th, so as soon as I get it, I'm going to be reading that. And the series essentially follows Emily Wilde, who is like an academic who is putting together this encyclopedia of all the kind of like fairy people in the world. She's just an academic who studies all these things, and it's so good. And then she has this like kind of like romance with this kind of like her colleague called Bamblebee, and it's cute and wholesome, and it's all written from her own perspective, and it's just a good time. I really like it. It's just a cute little cozy, very demure, very mindful little fantasy series. Next up, I have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which I feel like is always on my TBRs, but I feel like it's perfect for autumn. It's kind of like a fairy tale Regency novel, which I haven't really read anything like that before. So I'm interested to see what I think about that. There's a chance I might not like it, but I feel like it's perfect for autumn. It's kind of that, it kind of just seems like historical and cozy, and essentially follows a girl who has half of her soul taken by a fairy, I believe. I'm not 100% on what happens throughout the story, but I know that she loses her soul and I think she's trying to get it back. Nonetheless, it sounds wholesome, it sounds really cute, and sounds like a perfect autumn vibe. Okay, and the next one I have is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. So this one sounds like it's a cozy and a witchy book, which, I mean, it's perfect for autumn. Essentially follows a main character. I think her name is Mika Moon, which I also kind of love. Obsessed. So we follow her and she goes to this like house. I think it's like a school for witches, or like it's like she essentially has to take care of these young witches, and it seems very much like found family kind of vibes. Just seems cozy and cute and heartwarming, and something that's, a little bit of a different kind of witchy story. And that's all that I have so far for my kind of cozy autumn witchy read. I may add more to this, but that's all I have for now. So on to the horror books that I have. Perfect for October and Halloween, so I'm probably going to try and read them around then. So first one I've already started. It's called Say Her Name by Juno Dawson, which is kind of a young adult horror about kind of Bloody Mary, the story of Bloody Mary, and the kind of like urban legend that if you go into the bathroom and you look into the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 5 times, she appears and kills you, essentially. So that's essentially what the book is following. So far, we follow a girl called Bobby. We follow Bobby, who is a girl at this kind of boarding school. She gets involved in this Halloween kind of like dare to go into the bathroom and say this, and then we follow kind of what happens after that in the next couple of days. So I'm interested. It's really good so far. It's very just fast-paced, gripping. I do like a young adult horror because they're just so easy to read and creepy. So far, I'm really enjoying it. We've just got to the part where she has done the whole Bloody Mary in the mirror thing, and it's the next day, so I'm excited to get back to that. And then the next one I have is a Grady Hendrix, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which is kind of like a vampire novel. I really like Grady Hendrix, so I'm really hoping they'll like this one, and I've heard lots of good things about it, so I'm sure that I will. But we essentially follow a kind of like suburban group of mums who are in this book club, and disappearances start happening in their town, and I'm thinking there's a vampire behind it, and it's Grady Hendrix, so I'm sure I'll love it. The next one I have is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson is always on my autumn TBRs. Every year she's on here, and every year I fail to read anything by her. So this year I've put my hold in at the library early. So I have the book. It will be with me shortly. So I just need to read it and it will be done. I feel like I want to read it around Halloween, and I think it's like 2 weeks. The hold is going to come in 2 weeks. So I might read it a little bit early, but it's going to happen. Maybe I'll read another one if I finish this one. But I watched the Netflix adaptation, and I know that the story's a little bit different, but I really enjoyed that. I feel like The Haunting of Hill House is like such a iconic haunted house story. It's a classic that everyone loves. So I feel like I just need to read it. And I love horror. I love haunted houses. There's no reason why I wouldn't like this. So everything is telling me I will like it. So I'm going to read it. It's going to happen. Next up, I have 2 short story manga collections from Junji Ito. I have Frankenstein and I have Loved Sickness. I think these, I was going to say they'll be a quick read, but they're actually kind of chunky. But it will be a good kind of like breakup of just reading. I love having a bit of manga or graphic novels in there every month just to kind of like break things up. I really want to get into Junji Ito, but I've only read one so far and I don't think it was his best, and I think other people have said it wasn't his best. So I think these ones should be a really good introduction into different types of stories that he does. Okay, and next up I have fantasy books. Again, I feel like fantasy books are just so autumnal and just they're just perfect to read in like a rainy day with some coffee or a hot chocolate, and then you can just like fall into this completely different world. Okay, first of all, I have 2 books actually by Leigh Bardugo. So I have Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which is the sequel to Ninth House, which I read last year, which essentially follows a girl who can like see ghosts and paranormal things, and she's recruited by Yale, the university, to kind of oversee different supernatural societies that use different powers, and to kind of like oversee them and make sure that they aren't abusing their powers kind of thing and keep them in check. So this follows off from the last book, which was left on a bit of a cliffhanger, which I do really need to read and I do really want to get to because of I want to know what happens. It was such a cliffhanger and I feel like you're really going to get some answers from it. And then I also have 6 of Crows, which I've had on my bookshelf for the longest time. It's such a booktube classic fantasy that I feel like I never read, and I really need to because I only ever really hear good things about this. So I think it's like a group of these like different characters coming together, like they're kind of like outcasts, I think, and they're all different like personalities, and they all come together for a heist which I think is going to like change all of their lives, and everyone loves it. Like, so I feel like I just need to read it. Autumn, fantasy, they just go together. Okay, and then the next one is also from another author that is very popular and I just never read anything from her, and that's Cassandra Clare. I picked up Swordcatcher recently, and I think maybe I'll start with that because it's an adult fantasy, whereas other books that are quite popular are like the Clockwork Princess, Clockwork Angel, Clockwork something. They were massive back in the day, and I just never read them. I think I was a bit scared by how many there were and intimidated by it. But they were young adult fantasy, and I'll probably read them at some point. But Swordcatcher seems really interesting. It's set in this Venice kind of style world where we have like a member of the nobility. I can't remember if he's a prince. I think he's a prince. And he has grown up with a double of him that is not a double. It's like his body double, but will, like, has like the ability to kind of like shapeshift essentially into looking like him or use something that makes him look like him, and he will go and do all of the public appearances that are relatively dangerous, so he will take all the damage essentially if something does happen to him. And then I also really want to read Legends of Nate by Travis Baldree, which has been on my TBR again for like all of this year. I've been wanting to read it for ages, but I thought autumn, perfect time to read a cozy fantasy book. It's like a cozy fantasy which follows an orc who's given up her like mercenary lifestyle to open up a coffee shop and kind of introduce all of these fancy creatures to coffee, which, I mean, it sounds like my dream. Like, I wish I could be her. So I feel like I'm gonna love this. I need to find the perfect kind of rainy day to read it, and it will be perfect. That's all I have on my fantasy TBR for now, but I feel like I'm likely to add more because I love a fantasy book in autumn. And then finally, I have my kind of like other category, which is basically romance. So the first one is The Honey Witch, which kind of is also fantasy, I think. I keep seeing this in Waterstones. It's a sapphic romance with fantasy elements. It's about a woman who is, I think she's the honey witch, and the honey witch is kind of cursed to never fall in love or something like that. Anyway, I keep seeing it. The cover looks so autumnal and it looks so just cute and wholesome and fantasy-ish, and it just looks like an autumn book. So this is one that I don't own and I just keep seeing and I really want to read because of it looks cute, it sounds cute, and I want to read it for that. And because things didn't go to plan with my summer, so I didn't manage to read Beach Read by Emily Henry. So I'm like, I can still push it into fall. Like, there's still going to be some sunny days, especially in September. There's going to be some sunny days. So why not read Beach Read? I think I can just read it. It's a contemporary romance that follows two writers who I think swap genres. To get themselves out of writing block, they swap genres and kind of challenge each other to write each other's genres. And then obviously fall in love accidentally. And then I also have Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Leese. So this is a romance that I picked up because of it has lots of disability representation. I think it has chronic illness and also neurodiversity. So I figured maybe it would be a bit different from like the normal typical kind of romances you read. It would have these characters who are a bit different. So I thought maybe I'd like that a bit because I really want to be a romance girly, but I'm just not. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I love it. It sounds interesting and I think I've heard good things about it. And that is everything that I have on my autumn TBR. This is just kind of this is my rough idea. I'm a bit of a mood reader, so I probably will have some library hold come in and just upend everything because I can just never stick to a TBR properly. But this is just like the general kind of books I have an interest in at this moment and hoping to read. Let me know what books are on your TBR, and if you've read any of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Happy autumn and pumpkin spice season. Bye!